biggest fan of hers outside of her family because I love the way she played the game. And from watching the Fever, it just looks like they don't want the Caitlin Clark that we fell in love with at Iowa. The Caitlin Clark that used to play with daring and with bravado, coming down and pulling up with logo threes on the break, playing with that kind of confidence. I don't see that Caitlin anymore, so I don't even know if the Fever want that Caitlin Clark to play for them. They seem to want more of a
Mychal Thompson, two-time NBA champion, Lakers legend, and a man who has watched Caitlin Clark more obsessively than almost anyone outside her own bloodline, just dropped a nuclear bomb on the Fever's front office. His claim is simple, direct, and devastating. The Indiana Fever do not want the real Caitlin Clark. Not the logo lady who broke college basketball, not the human highlight reel who turned Iowa into appointment viewing for 12 million Americans. They want someone smaller, quieter, less dangerous. They want a pedestrian. Think about what Thompson is actually saying here. A franchise that won the draft lottery, won the right to select the most electrifying force women's basketball has ever produced, has apparently decided that her superpowers are a problem to be solved rather than a weapon to be unleashed. This isn't just bad coaching. This is basketball malpractice. This is the 1980s Detroit Pistons drafting Michael Jordan and asking him to become a spot-up shooter. This is the Golden State Warriors telling Stephen Curry to stop taking threes and start running the Princeton offense. And now, with the Fever stumbling through a season where Caitlin Clark looks nothing like herself, Thompson is pulling back the curtain on why. The timeline of Caitlin Clark's WNBA career is becoming a tragedy written in slow motion. Her rookie season under Christie Sides showed everyone what was possible. The Fever won 20 games after winning only 5 the year before. Kelsey Mitchell flourished alongside Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston turned into an all-star running partner. But then the Fever front office did something that still makes no basketball sense. They fired Christie Sides, the coach who encouraged Caitlin Clark to be Caitlin Clark. The coach who let the logo threes fly, who embraced the fast break, who understood that you don't draft a supernova and then ask her to dim her own light.
The second best lineman in the history of football next to Ball State's Jason Whitlock's the late great Larry Allen from the Cowboys, and turning him into a long snapper. They've taken away Caitlin's superpowers. And when you draft a player like Caitlin, like a Steph Curry, a Magic, an Isaiah Thomas, of course, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, when you have a player of that caliber, of a Wemby, you play to their strengths and you build around a franchise player such as that. And it seems like they brought the franchise player in to make them play the way they.
Mychal Thompson compares what the Fever are doing to Caitlin Clark to taking the serve away from Serena Williams, to taking the bat out of Shohei Ohtani's hands, to turning Larry Allen, one of the greatest defensive linemen in NFL history, into a long snapper. These aren't exaggerations. These are analogies from a man who played alongside Magic Johnson, who watched the Showtime Lakers revolutionize basketball by doing the exact opposite of what the Fever are doing now. When Pat Riley took over from Paul Westhead in Los Angeles, he didn't tell Magic Johnson to slow down. He told everyone else to speed up. He built around his superstar's strengths. The Fever, by contrast, brought in Stephanie White, a coach with deep front office connections, a coach whom GM Lynn Dunn personally recruited to Purdue and apparently handed her a mandate: make Caitlin Clark fit our system, not the other way around. Here's the long-term consequence that should terrify Fever fans. Caitlin Clark is 22 years old. She has maybe 15 prime years left in her career. And right now, the organization that controls those years is actively suppressing everything that made her the biggest attraction in all of team sports. Not just women's sports, all team sports, that's what Thompson said, and he's right. When Caitlin Clark was pulling up from the logo at Iowa, she was appointment television in a way women's basketball had never experienced. Now, the Fever are having trouble selling tickets because Caitlin Clark has become ordinary looking. That word, ordinary, should be a 4-letter word in Indianapolis. Let's investigate the psychology of what's happening to Caitlin Clark, because this goes deeper than X's and O's. Every great scorer in basketball history has described the same internal mechanism: a confidence so absolute that it borders on delusion, a willingness to take and make shots that would get any other player benched. Stephen Curry has it. Damian Lillard has it. Michael Jordan had it so intensely that he would glare at teammates who even looked like they wanted the ball in crunch time. Caitlin Clark had it at Iowa. She played with daring, with bravado. She would pull up on the fast break with 22 seconds on the shot clock and launch a 30-footer because she believed, not hoped, but believed it was going in. And here's the thing, Thompson understands that the Fever front office apparently doesn't. You cannot manufacture that confidence. You can only protect it or destroy it.
Yes, I was, because it seemed like she encouraged Caitlin to be Caitlin. Caitlin was playing free flowing, coming down, pulling up, shooting threes, shooting those logo threes, 30-footers that the fans love. Now, she didn't make all of them, but she made a good high percentage of them. And that style really brought in the fans, brought in the eyeballs, brought in the TV ratings, and they won. They turned around. They won 20 games that year, 27 games that year from winning 4 or 5 the previous year. So obviously that style could win in the WNBA. And for some reason,
The Fever are destroying it. Thompson says Caitlin Clark is now walking the ball up the floor. Walking. A player who once hunted transition threes like a predator stalking prey is now operating in half-court sets that neutralize her greatest weapon. Compare this to previous eras of basketball. When Isaiah Thomas arrived in Detroit, Chuck Daly didn't tell him to become a game manager. When Steph Curry was drafted by Golden State, Mark Jackson and later Steve Kerr built entire offensive philosophies around his gravity. When LeBron James entered the league, the Cavaliers cleared out and let him be LeBron. But the Fever. They drafted Caitlin Clark #1 overall and then surrounded her with 4 former South Carolina players. Bree Hall, Raven Johnson, Aaliyah Boston, and Tashia Harris, all from Dawn Staley's system. Thompson calls this the equivalent of the Lakers drafting Magic Johnson and surrounding him with Bobby Knight's players. It's not that South Carolina players aren't talented. They're winners. They're champions. But they play a specific style, half-court, physical, defensive-minded, that is almost the exact opposite of the wide-open, freelance, logo 3 bombing attack that made Caitlin Clark famous. Stephanie White has to recognize this. The personnel to play Caitlin Clark's game exists on this roster. Kelsey Mitchell is lightning in sneakers. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham are athletic wings who can run. Aaliyah Boston can absolutely sprint the floor. We've seen Caitlin Clark hit her on the run for layups a dozen times. Monique Billings gets up and down. The foot speed is there. But the system isn't. Here is where the story turns from basketball analysis into franchise-altering drama. Mychal Thompson and his co-host just floated something that would send shockwaves through the entire WNBA. Caitlin Clark needs to demand a trade, not request one politely through back channels. Not wait for the front office to figure things out. Woman up, go to the coaching staff, and say the words that Magic Johnson said to the Lakers when he forced Paul Westhead out. This isn't me. This isn't what made me Caitlin Clark. Think about the financial implications of that sentence. The Fever are currently drawing 15,000 to 17,000 fans per game because of one player. If they trade Caitlin Clark, Thompson predicts attendance drops to 8,000 or 9,000 overnight. But here's the cynical twist that Thompson and his co-host both recognize: the Fever organization might actually want Caitlin Clark to demand a trade. It lets them off the hook. They can tell the world, "We wanted this to work, but she asked out." Meanwhile, they've been constructing a roster and installing a system seemingly designed to frustrate her into exactly that decision.
They haven't executed a strategy of like, hey, we're doing what's best for business, and what's best for business is for Caitlin Clark to be leading the Showtime Fever. I just don't. I think they have no choice but to trade Caitlin Clark, and I think they're trying to put Caitlin Clark in a position where she demands the trade, which kind of lets them off the hook. It wasn't our idea. We wanted this to work. And Caitlin Clark and her father need to give them what they want.
Well,
the South Carolina connection isn't a coincidence. 4 former Gamecocks on one roster, all loyal to Dawn Staley's system, all accustomed to a particular style of play that emphasizes defense, half-court execution, and shared touches. Against that backdrop, Caitlin Clark's freelance hero ball looks like chaos. Her logo threes look like selfishness. Her defensive weaknesses, and yes, she has them, she gets beat off the dribble, she reaches for silly fouls, become magnified because the system doesn't cover for her the way Golden State covers for Steph Curry. And that last point is crucial. Draymond Green recently explained exactly how the Warriors protect Curry on defense, fighting through screens, refusing easy switches, making sure their superstar never gets isolated against a quicker scorer. The Fever do the opposite. They switch 1 through 5. They put Caitlin Clark on an island. Thompson's co-host believes this is intentional, a scheme designed to expose her. Thompson himself disagrees. He thinks Caitlin Clark simply needs to improve defensively and take individual pride in that end of the floor. But here's the high-stakes climax of this entire saga. Whether the Fever are incompetent or malicious almost doesn't matter anymore. The result is the same. Caitlin Clark is being diminished. Her superpowers have been taken away. And if Stephanie White won't adopt a Pat Riley-style Showtime philosophy, if she won't open up the court, run the ball, and let Caitlin Clark freelance the way she did at Iowa, then something has to give. Either the front office fires another coach, or Caitlin Clark forces her way out of Indiana. The WNBA office in New York should be terrified of that second option. Because if the league's biggest attraction ends up in Los Angeles, if Caitlin Clark becomes the next in the line of transcendent stars from Wilt to Kareem to Shaq to LeBron to Luka, who all ended up in purple and gold, the Fever will become irrelevant overnight. And the league will have no one to blame but themselves.